Welcome back, everybody, to our last session of the day. I'd like to invite back, pivoting, first of all, I'd like to say we're pivoting from a lot of tariff, trade, government policy stuff that we had earlier in the day. It was super informative and very relevant to what's going on, especially with the new administration. We're switching gears a little bit to fabrics, specifically how fabric inspire designers to create masterpieces is the title of the talk. This has always been a very interesting concept for myself, not having come from a design background, more on the supply chain end. I know there's different methodologies of how designers approach how they create a garment. So coming from the fabric perspective, very interested to see what our guests have to say. So leading the fireside chat, I'd like to welcome back Albania Rosario, CEO and founder of Fashion Designers of Latin America. We are joined by Mexican-Cuban fashion designer Willfredo Gerardo, and he is joining us from Mexico City currently. So welcome the two of you. I'd just like to remind everybody watching that we do have Q&A function, even our Facebook live viewers. Please feel free to post questions there. We do have a ATS rep who will be feeding those questions over to me. So we'll address those at the very end of the presentation. So without further ado, Albania, Willfredo, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jason. It's great to see you on here again, one more time in this Apparel textile sourcing seminar section. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Alrighty then, so Willfredo, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you, I'm doing great, thank you. Here in Mexico City, ready to take on this topic of the conversation.
Yes, how's the weather over there right now?
It's beautiful, it's sunny.
Yeah, nice. Over here, we're finally getting the summer, in New York City. And as you know, the city is opening back up slowly. So we're looking forward to hosting our Fashion Designers of Latin America runway shows this coming September, which you are going to be part of it.
Yes, correct. I'll be showing my new runway collection, couture gowns. So I'm super excited to be showing with you once again. It's always an honor. And I love showing in that platform.
Absolutely, and we love to have you there. It's been like a few years now that you always been participating with us, which is great. So before we get into our interesting topic today on how fabric inspired designers to create masterpieces, I would love if you can share a little bit more information about who is Willfredo Gerardo to the audience, for those who don't know you yet. Can you talk to us a little bit about your career, where you start, and everything about you that people will be, interested in knowing?
Yes, of course. I am Cuban descent. My father is Cuban, my mother is Mexican. I was born in North Hollywood, California, and I have almost 10 years in this career. And so I started off working with different companies, designing their collections for their mass production. And in 2014, I decided to create my own brand, which is my name, Willfredo Gerardo. And I started off with 6 gowns, a small showroom in downtown Los Angeles. But I had the inspiration to create these masterpieces. And at that point, I didn't even know how I was going to start selling the pieces or how I was going to start getting recognition. And I was very blessed to have one celebrity come across, and that celebrity helped me make the mega boom in the industry. And then afterwards, you invited me to New York Fashion Week, and then I started presenting in New York. And so my career kicked off. In the beginning, it was not easy, but I think that those moments that were tough in the beginning of the career, I think that that's what has made me stay, in the position where I'm at right now. And I love what I do. I'm very passionate of creating these pieces and saying a storyline when I'm creating, not just creating something to create it or something that's so commercial where it's just the repetitive same style, same thing. And so that's a little bit about me. I'm currently right now in Mexico City. I live between Miami and Mexico City, but right now I'm in Mexico City. I'm actually getting ready to present at Miami Swim Week in July. So I'm really busy and super excited for that.
Very nice. It's so exciting. And I cannot wait to, I'm definitely going to be there also for the Miami Swim Week to support you. And I
Thank
think it's
you.
going to be amazing that we're finally going back to in-person physical shows. So everybody's looking forward to that. And Wilfredo, I have a little question. I mean, a very interesting question about, before we go into this.
Yes.
I have a question about like, do you always know you wanted to be a fashion designer when you were like when you were a child? Do you always know if that's what you wanted to do?
You know that I studied at a performing arts school throughout, high school. I studied at a performing arts school, and I used to sing and do all the performances and all of those things. And my father really wanted me to study classical opera. So I was trained as an opera singer, but that wasn't my passion. That was my father's passion. So I went the route where I had my passion to be able to create and to be a designer, because that's what I really wanted to do.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. So, and we all know, well, at least I know, and a lot of people here in New York, we know that you are very popular among celebrities, and you have worked and collaborated with a lot of celebrities throughout your career. Can you share a little bit about that so that everybody can hear out?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, an honor to be able to work with, very important people for occasions that are very important, like a red carpet for the Latin Grammys or the American billboards, and American celebrities and Latin celebrities, and these big important events that they contact me to be able to create their masterpieces for the red carpet. So they have a lot of faith in my work and in my talent. And I've been able to work with Paris Hilton, Keisha Coles. I've been able to work with Ninel Conde in the Latin industry. So there's a lot of different celebrities that I create those pieces for them for the red carpet.
Very good, very nice. And that has taken your career really far, because I've seen some of the pictures, and some of the magazine ads, which, by the way, you are like in every single magazine, every single fashion editorial, fashion magazine that there is. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been able to do Cosmo, Helpos Bazaar, Elle, Vogue. It's an honor being Latino and being able to be in those magazines with my name, and I get blown away. So sometimes I'll be going into the store and then I see the cover of my work there. So it blows me away. It's very nice to have that opportunity to be able to be on these covers with my work. Yeah,
that's impressive. And it's also amazing. It actually, when I see it, I tell everybody, oh, this is one of our fashion designers of Latin America. And it's so great to see how much you have accomplished in your career as a Latino in this competitive industry. So I'm very proud of your work. And I think it's definitely very, very, something very important to share so that people know exactly who are they listening to, right?
Yes. Paris Hilton actually wore another dress yesterday. One of the dresses that she ordered, she made a video with it. So I'm going to be posting that on my social media pretty soon. And so I was just very happy to see once again that she's putting, Willfredo Gerardo on.
How exciting. I really love that. And I'm very proud of you. Again, congratulations for all the work that you have done and put our Latino, designers' name out there in the fashion industry on the top. So I congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
Now I think we have to get into the topic, right? Because I think
the topic,
I always like to start by having a little conversation about who you are and what you do, so that the people who don't know you can get to learn a little bit more from you as a person and your career before we actually jump into the topic, which we are about to do right now. It's actually a very exciting topic. So how do fabric inspire you designers to create masterpieces?
For me, it's, I have to go to the fabric stores. I have to go to the fabric mills to be able to even have a vision of what I want to create, because that fabric is going to talk to me when I see it. So if I see a certain print, I start creating there. In that moment, I will start creating, I'll start draping fabric. I'll ask, if the fabric store has a mannequin like this, I'll ask them to let me borrow the mannequin, and if I can drape while I'm there, because as I'm there purchasing the fabric, I'm creating the collection and I have the full vision there because it talks to me. I can feel the the whole creation there in that moment. And it's different for every designer. I mean, afterwards that I go to the fabric store, and pick out the fabrics, I'll go back and sketch everything out and then put it all together. So it's like a puzzle, but it all comes there. At that moment, it's just like, I see a beautiful fabric or the texture of the fabric, or if it's a 3-dimensional or hand beaded or crystals or transparency, which, I'm known for a lot of transparency on the runway. And so those fabrics really inspire me to say, this is going to be a masterpiece. This is going to be something that's going to be a boom, and people are going to love this and they're going to order it, or we're going to be able to sell it in mass production, or we're only going to do certain amount for the collection and only have a couture limited edition, depending on the fabric, and also if the fabric is available to do mass production.
Excellent. And can you share with, at least I want to know this personally, but maybe the audience will also like to know, what is your specific favorite type of fabric to use?
Like this fabric that you're showing here that's on the runway, where the girls with the cape, the chiffon, all of the crystallized transparency fabrics that are brought in from India that are all hand beaded, those really blow me away, because those are really, pieces of art that have been handmade by people. And so I go crazy for those fabrics. They're a little bit more expensive than the basic fabrics, but it really makes a big difference when you're showing something and you want to show high-end versus just doing something more economical. There's also fabrics that are economical that you can create beautiful things. Like this fabric here, it's not an expensive fabric, but it has stretch, it's sequence. So it does a lot of things for you when you're creating those pieces, because if you're going to be selling this as mass production, it gives a little bit in the take of the size run. So maybe this will be a small, but it'll go into a size medium when you actually get into it. So it depends. I mean, this is a beautiful piece.
It is. And this is part of your most recent collection, correct?
This is the most recent collection. This was more for the mass production that we sold online. And so this did very well. And it was all the animal print, which was super in, and it's like the trend of the animal print and stuff of that nature. Also, designers go with the trends that the mills or the companies of the Pantene colors go with. So if they say that these are the colors for the season, they try to get inspired with that. And when they start seeing the fabrics at the shows. And so that really helps too, because then you know what direction you should go for mass production.
Yeah, I come across sometimes by going to fashion events and meeting all these designers around the world, I usually come across of, some designers that will say they get their inspiration, from women or from an architectural or from their country, or, different types of ideas that they get their inspiration from. So in that case, does the textile design kind of merge in with that inspiration that they get?
Definitely. I've been honored. I've been privileged to be able to travel the world, to different parts of the world. And when I travel, the architectural work of buildings or historical landmarks and stuff of that nature, that inspires me as well. And so if I could see that within a fabric and with the inspiration of the architectural work, I put 2 and 2 together to be able to create these pieces.
Yeah, and then magic happens.
Magic happens, and you feel it. You feel it when you're in the workroom with your team, with the seamstresses and the pattern makers, and you're making these pieces, because everything's a team of people to be able to create this.
So what is your audience most attractive to when it comes to your pieces and your collections? I know you just mentioned that you have a recent collection that you made with that one sample that you have right there, and versus the haute couture that you normally do for celebrities and all that. What is your audience mostly interested in?
The evening wear gowns it's my number one. That's what my clients and my audience love, the gowns. With the mass production, it does well, but I feel that my niche and my signature mark is the evening wear.
Is your DNA, right? That's how
it is 100%. I'm so passionate to make a gown, or either a wedding dress or something for a red carpet or for a special occasion, but it just really inspires me. I'm not saying that I don't like making the mass production stuff too. Yeah. There is more simple and basic stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. And can you, I have an image here that I pull up. Can you tell us a little bit of the difference, you know, and the types of fabrics that there are accessible and available for designers, you know, to create their pieces?
Yeah, I mean, there's economical fabrics that do very well and fit very well in the body, which is like spandex four-way stretch, which I use a lot sometimes in the gowns, and it does very well. I mean, you could literally sew on the sewing machine a lot faster than with another fabric like silk. You have to go a lot slower because it's more delicate, the 100% silk. So sometimes with the mix of polyester blends in the fabrics, it sometimes works out and you can create a masterpiece with that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to buy an expensive hand beaded fabric to create a masterpiece. You can go with the economical route if you have the background of the technique of making a great pattern. So you can do that with all any kind of fabric.
Right. And you mentioned something about the sewing. What are, or are there many different types of sewing fabric versus the other type of fabric?
You know, it all depends. There's fabrics that run really smoothly on the sewing machine, but there's other fabrics that will break the needle because they either have the crystal and it will break the needle. So you have to be changing constantly.
All right.
But then there's fabrics.
Yeah.
There's fabrics that, they don't go well together. So sometimes when you have to do the linings of the fabric and you put it with, let's say, a fabric that doesn't have any stretch, and then you're trying to put a different fabric, it's like a oil and water.
Right. Yeah, that's completely understandable. And this is you, I have you here up on the screen. This is you in one of the runway shows. And I was going to ask you, can you talk to us a little bit, like how to combine the different type of textile, the different type of fabrics into a piece? Because I see here that you have two very different types of materials fabric-wise in this one dress over here in the front. So can you explain a little bit or how you got inspired to create that piece using different types of textiles?
Yes, the fabric on the bottom, which is a transparent dress, but it's made out of sequins with a mesh. That was a piece that I created, and I wanted a big wow effect. But for me to create that big wow effect for the closing piece for the runway, I needed to have a fabric that had a lot of flow with it. So we picked the taffeta silk to be able to do this creation, and it worked so well. It was so magical on the runway, and it was, the dress on the bottom is just spectacular. It's beautiful, but what really made this moment magical was the cape. It was just so beautiful.
So this particular outfit, this particular garment, your inspiration here, was it the fabric? Was it the model? Was it like the way you visioned? Like, what was exactly your inspiration for this garment? It
was all combined. I knew that I was going to use the model Gilena Hernandez for the runway to close the night. So she has a very powerful walk. So I knew that I needed to bring in a big piece, something wow, so she could be able to execute the closing. So she was an inspiration as well. But the fabric really read to me when I seen that black, it's like a black mesh with sequins. Mm-hmm. It really spoke to me, and I said, I'm going to use this, but I need a big factor. So I created that purple cape, which that cape has been used for red carpets and stuff like that. It's a beautiful piece.
It's also a multi-use garment because you can use, like you said, you can use the cape for other things, for other outfits. And I think the black against the purple goes really well. And I know Gilena personally, and I know she's very glamorous, and this was an amazing piece on her. So definitely we can safely say that the fabric, the model, everything combined inspired the look.
Yeah, everything combined. But like you say, that this is, you can use it in different ways with the cape. I, sold this piece, and a lady used black pants, beautiful black dress pants, and she used the cape, and it was a little bit more formal versus this was not so formal.
Yeah. So in this picture right here next to you that we see, actually you sent this one to me from your designs, and some of these pieces that I'm seeing here, what are those pieces and how you incorporate them into the garments with the different fabrics?
Yeah, there's different fabric mills that will offer you it's like a piece of hand embroidered with beading. And I usually use that. I could either cut it out and then put it like on a sleeve, or I could use it to actually sew onto the dress and make the whole dress out of it. And so the other one is a black in sequins, which that had roses, beautiful roses, all with the sequins. It was amazing. And then you see something on one of the mannequins, it's like almost like a corset that was already
Mhm.
hand.
Yeah. Wow. So that has a combination of like beads in different type of, it's not just one made up corset. It's actually sewing together with all the beads and everything, correct?
All the beading, all the crystals, different,
Yeah.
I think it has 2 different tones of crystals. So that's what really makes that 3-dimensional effect, where you see the piece and it's almost like reading you 3D.
It looks fantastic. And Willfredo, what can you tell us about digital fabrics? That I know that's a big thing now. What it always has been, but now it's more than ever. What can you tell us about that? Like digital fabrics? Is that when you print something that is like a 3-dimensional, like you saw a painting? Like how can you explain that?
Usually you actually take a photograph of something and you could actually print out your fabric to that photograph. So let's say you're on vacation and you see an actual like architectural or like what is that called in like a ceramic. So if you take that picture and you send it to them, they could actually print that out, and it creates beautiful stuff because you're actually making your own fabric, which is more amazing and more exclusive than purchasing a fabric already at a fabric mill or a fabric store, because the possibilities that other people could have it in their collections, it could happen.
And then that will definitely be something unique, right? Something like very limited.
Yeah, 100% unique. Or you could actually draw something out for them, and then they can use that and then put in the colors that you like and all of that. And you can choose the fabrics that you're going to use, because they can print on.
You can print in any types of fabric, and that will come out depending what you want to accomplish.
You can do it in charmeuse, you can do it in taffeta, you can do it in satin, you can do it in any polyester blends. It all works. It works for that.
Great. That's very interesting. Well, everybody, I hope you're taking notes because this information is valuable. And then later on, you can ask some questions if you like. You will have a chat here that you can just type in your questions. And I know that Jason at the end, towards the end, will kind of read them to us. And then I'm sure Willfredo will be happy to respond each and every one of them. I do have one also very important question that I wrote it down here because I didn't want to forget. What are sustainable fabrics? Like, what do you work with that type of fabric, and what exactly is a sustainable fabric? How does that come about, and how do you guys use it as designers?
I use a lot of the fabrics that I use. It's mostly sequence fabrics, but a fabric that's like a satin. Those are great quality fabrics as well.
Right. Perfect, because I know a lot of designers now, especially after what happened, when the world pandemic, a lot of people are going sustainable, and I guess that what that means is that they're using fabrics that are made of like trees or the disposable things, to save the planet and things of that nature. So that has a little bit more meaning to it, as far as I think. And I see a lot of work being done around the fashion industry that's being sustainable. And I think not only that helps, the medio ambiente, the planet, and
the planet, yes. It's important to introduce those kind of fabrics in the collections, because that it does help, the world and what we're living right now.
Correct. Yeah. What do you do during the pandemic? Were you able to create new things while you were during quarantine, or were you inspired with anything new than normally use? What was that like for you?
When the pandemic hit, it was scary, but I had to be productive. So I was able to create the mass production collection, the animal print. But prior to that, I actually said, what do I have that I could be able to make something that it's needed right now, which was the face mask. And I said, I have a lot of scraps from all of the fabric that I use from all these different collections throughout the years. So why don't I make face mask out of this? And so that's exactly what I did in the beginning of the pandemic. In the middle of the pandemic, I started creating the mass production collection.
Great. Excellent, excellent. Well, is there anything else regarding this topic that you want to share that we left behind that maybe I didn't ask you? Is there any kind of message or anything that you want to add in before we finish and before we move on to the questions, if there are any, so that this is your chance? Take it over.
I think we hit all the topics. I think that all of, any designer that goes to the fabric store or the fabric mills, to be inspired when they see the fabrics, to have those fabrics talk to them. So I just think that that's very important.
Excellent, excellent. Well, so I think it has been a lot of information here today. I hope a lot of people were able to get, their questions or concerns about this topic answered. And let me stop the screen here. And I wanted to, thank you for accepting this invitation. And
no, thank you.
If you want to share your social media and your website in here so that everybody can see, can connect with you directly after this, go ahead.
Yes, it's Willfredo Gerardo. It's a certified account for Instagram and Facebook.
Excellent. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram as well, Fashion Designers of Latin America. You can also go to the website, fdla.co. That's CO, no M at the end. And I'm going to hand it over to our friend Jason, who has been there very patiently waiting for us to take it over. Jason?
Oh, I wasn't waiting. I was listening too.
You were listening too? Yeah.
Thank you, Wilfredo. That was very.
You're welcome.
For your insights. It's always it's so important for all the different areas of fashion to work together, and they're all so important. And coming from a supply chain background, I'm always very intrigued to hear how the designers work and their process. It's very inspiring and great to hear. So, and congratulations, by the way, on all your success. It's pretty.
Thank you so much.
We do have one question here. This is a very good question and this is just for a starting designer. How do you work on a beginner's budget?
There's so many ways. There's some fabric stores that will have closeouts with the fabric. So you could probably get the roll of fabric at half the cost, and you can create a collection with that. Starting off with a small budget, maybe even $200-300 to start off with some pieces. It's possible. You could actually create something.
Yeah, that's a good question, a common one to be asked. I know I've had some beginning designers that did quite well when they were beginning. Again, they had limited budget. They weren't able to buy all these different materials. So what they did was they followed that advice on top of also creating a line with less styles, less SKUs, and maybe it's one item. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's less items will bring down the cost. So if you're doing a collection that's 22 pieces, then you have to calculate that that's going to be a lot more. But you can do a collection that's 16 pieces or a 10-piece capsule collection.
I do have a question here on the Instagram account from Jay Regis. He wants to know, Willfredo, what is your favorite fabric color that you use for your collections?
Well, I was inspired by that purple and then red for some reason. If you see that I have a lot of red in my collection.
Yeah, you do. That's true. Yeah.
And I think it's just so romantic. It's just like the Oscar de la Renta red, which I love that designer. And so red is one of my favorite colors.
Perfect. There you go, Jay Regis. He just responded.
But I do have to say that my number one collection that I made was a white collection. And that sold so well. People love to wear white. And it did very, very well.
I can vouch for that. That's true.
Yeah.
I also saw your there was also a collection that you presented with us in the past season that had a lot of silver and like a lot of crystals. And I think I actually have one of those suits that you made for me.
Yeah.
And I think that was a beautiful collection as well. So
yeah, I think we showed that in DR.
In Dominican Republic Fashion Week, that was when we showed that. It
was a beautiful, beautiful collection. I love that collection. I still see that collection. I still go, wow.
When I saw that suit, I was like, yeah, definitely Willfredo got inspired by me this time because that suit has my name everywhere.
Yes.
And it looks great and it's beautiful. So
Beautiful.
definitely. Well, that's it for us. That's it for me for today. Jason, thank you so much. And Alfredo,
Thank you.
thank you as well.
One more question.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So, all right. So, how do you? This is good. Another good one. How do you buy from international fabric mills?
Well, usually it's through a broker. So it's someone that's in the US and then they do the whole business deal for us to get those fabrics. But we work with different fabric mills. I love purchasing fabrics in New York because I feel like that's where I find everything and I can do everything in that 1 week when I'm purchasing all the fabric. You know, it's long days when you're going to create the collection. It's, you know, waking up early, getting there on, you know, to start sourcing the fabric, because what I do is that I go into all of the fabric mills first and I see everything that they have and all of the options that they have. And then I sit down and then I go back the following day. And then I say, I do want this, I want that, I want that. And we either start placing orders so they can start making these pieces, or if they have it available, then we'll go ahead and take it right there on the spot.
Yeah, well said. And one thing to consider is that, especially if you're starting out, international might sound appealing because of the lower prices, a lower cost of fabrics, but you have to factor in the logistics costs, the customs fees, and all. The
customs fees, yeah.
So,
yeah, you have to have the import and export so you could be able to receive those goods. And sometimes it gets complicated depending where it's coming from. So that's why I always recommend for you to just do it with the fabric mill, with a broker.
Yeah.
And you know, like he made a good point. You know, he said he likes to shop in New York. Low-hanging fruit, that term is it's often taken negatively, but it's not. You know, you think about what works best for your operations in combination with lead times as well. If you have a fabric supplier in New York, it's going to take a lot less time to get that fabric to your supplier. Now, if you're manufacturing overseas, that's a different story. So there's a lot of variables.
Yeah.
There's different ways to structure it. Don't just go overseas just because you think the fabric itself is cheaper. You have to consider the other variables as well. So
yeah.
And ATS is another good resource to help you out. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we're not a broker per se, but we are connected with suppliers overseas. So it's very important to work with a broker to take a lot of the
weight off your shoulder.
Right. It's like hiring a real estate agent, for example.
Yeah, definitely.
Their expertise is dealing with international fabric suppliers and the logistics and the customs and all that stuff. So, but in terms of getting connected with the fabric supplier, ATS matchmaking can certainly help you do that, which is a perfect segue into my next thing I was going to say is I highly encourage everybody watching to visit the show dashboard and go down to the show office is what it's called. It's basically the hangout room where the ATS staff and our speakers as well. So if you'd like to connect with Willfredo and Albania in there as well, people are in and out of there, but also ask them any questions you have about your sourcing needs. So I highly recommend everybody go in there. Looks like that's
excellent.
It. So thank you, both of you again.
You're welcome.
That was very
Thank you so much, Jason. Good to see you again.
Likewise. Hope to see you guys next year, hopefully in Miami.
Yes, you will. All right.
Everybody, we'll be back here tomorrow morning.
All right.